find yourself standing in a room full of people, feeling like you're on the outside looking in? It's like there's an invisible wall between you and everyone else who seems to be chatting effortlessly. You're not alone. Today, I'm going to show you how to dissolve that wall, not by changing who you are, but by embracing your nature. You'll learn practical, real-world strategies to feel confident and connected in any social situation. My name is Daniel and I help professionals feel more confident socially so that they can advance in their corporate career. I've worked with over 300 clients now, I've trained global companies, and I'm also a proud introvert. I used to believe that in order to be confident in social situations, I had to be more outgoing. One of my old bosses gave me feedback that I always seemed anxious and uncomfortable around people. And the feedback he gave me was to try and imitate a particular colleague. He said, look at the way he talks, look at the way he walks, look at the way he interacts with people, and try and mimic that. So of course I listened to his advice, and I was just trying to copy this colleague who was more outgoing than me, but it never worked because I wasn't this person. I tried to do the things he was doing, I tried to speak like he was, and it just never worked. It just actually led me to feeling terrible about myself. It really knocked my confidence because I thought, why can't I be this outgoing person? Why can I not do what this other person can do? And because it was coming from my boss, who was in a position of power, I thought, well, this must be the way to do it. And while I do believe that there is power in taking inspiration from the way people talk and the way they communicate, when you try and totally mimic or totally change who you are, it's a recipe for disaster. Imitating another person's personality, particularly in the quest to fit in or gain approval, can undermine one's authentic self-expression and stifle personal growth. This mimicry often leads to the development of a false self, a persona that conforms to the external expectations, and it kind of just suppresses who you really are. And over time this can really damage your confidence. It really damaged my confidence because it was like I was constantly at conflict between who I naturally was, who was someone more introverted, more reserved, between someone that I thought I had to be in order to succeed, to someone that was more outgoing, that was more charismatic, that could, speak to anyone in a room. And what this can do is it can force you to always feel like you need to perform when you're around people. So when you walk into work and you're amongst colleagues, instead of just being able to be natural, you're constantly thinking, I need to speak more, or I need to be funny, or I need to be more engaging. And what this can do is this can just really increase that anxiety because you're always feeling like you need to be on it. And when you're constantly monitoring how you're behaving, what you're saying, and you've constantly got that internal battle, it can also lead to burnout. What a lot of communication skills trainers will do is encourage you to be more extroverted. I watched a video recently of a very well-known trainer, and this person said, just pretend to be more outgoing. But when we pretend to be more outgoing, that goes against our values, and we may be to fake it for a small amount of time, but in time it's going to catch up to us, and it's going to lead to that self-hatred, and it's going to lead to a poor relationship with yourself. And what it's going to do as well, it's going to prevent you from really connecting with people, which is what you want to do. So the first thing is to stop mimicking those who are a complete different personality to you. The next one is become aware of self-talk as you're approaching social situations. Whenever I would approach people, so for example if I was walking into work, I would always be saying things to myself such as, don't mess this up, this needs to go well, don't be awkward. And what this does is it creates so much unnecessary pressure for a simple thing, just like a social interaction. So what you're doing when you're approaching people and you're constantly berating yourself, you're creating more anxiety within your body, and again it's creating that cycle of this needs to go well, or I need to not mess up. And what used to happen in my case is that the more I would feed this into myself, this is going to go bad, I'm going to be awkward. When I actually got into the situation, I was so nervous that often I would freeze. Begin by becoming aware of the specific negative thoughts that frequently occur when you're approaching social situations. So the next step is to challenge these negative perceptions that you have about yourself. So if you have a thought of, I'm going to mess up here, I'm going to say something stupid, instead say something like, this is not a performance, I'm allowed to be awkward. Or this is going to go well. I'm going to connect with people. Whatever it is, it's to take that pressure off of yourself, because what you're doing at the moment is you're setting yourself up to fail. So make a habit of practicing these, and I even practice them now. So even when I'm walking in the shop, sometimes my mind goes to, how am I walking, or am I dressed right, or just crazy things like this. So what I do is I just become aware of it, recognize it's just a thought, and then I will replace that thought. The next step to improving your social confidence is eye contact. One thing I used to avoid all of the time was eye contact. The mere thought of looking someone in the eyes felt like a stepping stone into the spotlight. I felt vulnerable, and I felt like I was under scrutiny even more. In meetings, I would fix my gaze on my notepad or doodle just to look like I was busy, and the reason for this was that I just couldn't bear just looking someone in the eyes. I would always focus on anything but the other person. This avoidance not only kept me more isolated, but it also gave off the message that I was a bit disinterested at times. So it took a realization that eye contact was one of the best ways to build that connection with someone. What I will say is, people have unique challenges with eye contact. Some of you watching may be neurodivergent like me, so we do have unique challenges when it comes to eye contact. So saying that, then, you should never judge someone because they're not giving eye contact, because you never know what the other person's going through. They might be neurodivergent, so just never judge someone for this. However, in this context, we're presuming that it's because of anxiety and other issues. Eye contact plays a pivotal role in building connections because it signals attention, interest, and engagement. When you look someone in the eyes, it communicates that you are fully present and genuinely interested in what it is they will have to say. For the person initiating the eye contact, this can act as a way to boost your confidence because it reinforces positive assertiveness. When I used to look away from someone, I'd know that I was doing it, and internally I would be filled with thoughts of, stop looking away, or it would be like I was trying to hide from the person. But when I just looked at them in the eyes, yes, it was difficult and uncomfortable, but it really helped to build incremental confidence within me, and then that helped me to maybe ask a question or just build on it from there. My two favourite techniques for improving eye contact when you're amongst people. Number one, checking to see what colour eyes the other person has when you first approach them. This is a great way to ensure that you maintain eye contact from the beginning, whilst meaning you're not going to be staring at the other person. Remember, we never want to be staring at people. The second method is called the triangle method. This method involves looking at one eye, moving to the other eye, and then looking at the mouth, forming an imaginary triangle. This technique helps in maintaining a balanced and comfortable level of eye contact as it shifts the focus without making the other person feel stared at. It's particularly useful in longer conversations. While these techniques around eye contact are useful, of course, as we spoke about, there's going to be different challenges for different people. One thing we want to avoid, though, is staring at the other person. So try and maintain a balance of around 60 to 70% of eye contact. And you may ask, how do you know what 60 or 70% eye contact would be? And this is just something that you'd have to feel out within the conversation. You don't want to get too fixated on the specific percentages, just a rough estimate. The next technique I'm going to talk about is called facing the room. Facing the room is a technique that you can use to build confidence socially when you first approach people. Whenever I was in a social situation, for example, if I went to a family gathering, I would always look for the quiet corner or the area where people weren't, and I'd head there. I do this because it was safer than approaching people, because approaching people would involve anxiety and a lot of discomfort, so I prefer to just hide away. The problem is when you hide away from the very start, it then again starts to build more anxiety within you, because you start thinking to yourself, I really should go and speak to this person, I wish I had have done it from the start, and then it actually becomes more challenging as time goes on. So the technique I create called face the room. For example, if you're going to a networking event, rather than walking in and looking for that nice quiet corner, approach someone from the very start. And what this does is it allows you to be more proactive physically and emotionally as well, because you go from a place of avoidance to a place of confidence. So when you're approaching people, walk straight over to them, say hello, how are you doing? Asking a question is a great way to take that attention off of yourself. And what you can do as time goes on, if you're more introverted like me, your energy will get drained in social situations. So it's best to use your energy when you've got it most, which is at the start. If you avoid people and go and sit in a corner, you're then more likely to be drained as time goes on anyways. So you're going to find it a lot more challenging when you're drained physically and mentally to then go and do the challenging thing. And then if you do start to feel tired as time goes on, which I often do, I can then go and sit by myself and take some time to just relax. But I've already done a bit of socializing before that. The next step is to stop seeing social situations as a performance. Whenever I was around people, I would always be saying to myself, I need to be less awkward, I need to come across as smart, I need to be funny, I need to be louder. And all of this pressure was just setting it up as if it was this big performance, but it wasn't. It was just a social interaction. And what this means is that you're trapped in a mindset of constant self-surveillance. You're constantly hyper aware of, am I coming across funny? Do people like me? Am I coming across smart? What story do I tell next? Rather than just being yourself and connecting with people. And setting it up like a performance and putting so much pressure on yourself is also creating this mindset that social situations need to be perfect and they need to go right every time. But the reality is that some social situations are awkward. They can't always be the way you want them to go. Even if you do everything the way you want, if you listen well, if you ask good questions, if you engage, it still might be awkward because there's more than just you involved. So you've got to remember as well, you put so much pressure on yourself, but there's other people involved as well. And one of the main things about treating them like a performance is that it stops you from being able to listen. Because when you're amongst people, instead of really listening to what they're saying, instead of being able to be present in your head, right, thinking of the next thing to say, thinking of the next question to ask, wondering if the person's finding you interesting, starting to worry that you're going a bit quiet. And what it's doing is it's breaking that connection without you even realizing, because it's going to be coming across like you're disengaged. The best technique to stop seeing social situations as such a performance is to set intentions, not expectations. Expectations are often rooted in outcomes that you may feel pressure to achieve, like needing to impress someone or being perceived as intelligent or witty. This can lead to anxiety and a feeling of failure when interactions don't go as planned. Intentions focus on the process and the quality of your engagement. They're under your control and align more with your authentic self, reducing the pressure of meeting external standards. So how do we use this approach then? The first way is to intend to listen deeply. So to really take time to connect with the other person, focus on what it is they're saying, and really giving them your full attention. The second way is to intend to contribute authentically. So rather than to be interesting or to be funny, try to communicate in a way that is authentic to you. The third way, and my favorite way, is to intend to learn something new about the other person. And we do this by asking questions and really just trying to gain an insight into the other person. And what these techniques do is it reduces performance anxiety, enhances connection, and improves personal growth. If you enjoy frameworks and techniques like this, you will love reading my weekly newsletter, which is for professionals who want to gain social skills and confidence within the workplace. I'll put a link to it below. The biggest challenges we face in social situations are the pressures society puts on us to be a certain way. But the biggest challenge is the pressure we put on ourselves. I hope you found this video useful. If you enjoyed this video and you resonated with the parts where I spoke about introversion and you happen to be an introvert yourself, I recently created a video on how to thrive as an introvert in an extroverted world. The video will be somewhere above. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.